Hello everyone, my name's Dane, and in this video we're going to talk about what I think is a common misconception in the asset management discipline, which is that most failures are random or occur randomly. Now, this statement of most failures are random is often used in the context of making cuts to maintenance budgets and preventative maintenance programs and things of that nature, with the idea being that if most failures are random, then why are we inspecting so much? Why are we replacing at fixed intervals and so on? Now, before I get into why I think this statement, that most failures are random, isn't entirely true, it's important to understand where it came from and why people think that. I believe that this has come from a series of studies where they call out these 6 conditional failure probability patterns done between 1978 or 1973, 1983 and 1993. And what you can see here is that the percentage of failures that are found in each study fit these 6 conditional failure probability patterns. And what it's saying is that only 11% in the case of the United Airlines study shows evidence of wear out. And by wear out, they mean that there is some time-dependent increase in the failures observed. And so only 11% you can see go up towards the end here. The rest of them have no evidence of wear out and are typically random or a fixed probability of failure over time for the back end of that distribution. The other studies broadly back up that claim. They show anywhere between 6% and 23% have evidence of wear out, and 77% or 93% have no evidence of wear out, indicating that even in these studies, that most of the failures are random in nature and don't indicate any kind of age-related wear out pattern. So if you take this at face value, it's easy to see why people think that most failures are indeed random. But let's dig a little bit deeper. The studies cited, the first one being United Airlines study by Nolan and Heap in 1978, was done on aircraft. The Broberg study in 1973 is also aircraft. The MSDP 1983 was on US Navy vessels. The SSMD in 1993, again, it was done by the US Navy, but this one had a limited scope, particularly of electrical components or electronic components. And the SubMep in 2001 study, which wasn't shown on the previous screen, again was done by the new US Navy on submarine vessels. So the scope of these studies cover aircraft, submarines, US Navy electrical components, and US Navy vessels more broadly, but I believe there's a significant portion of submarine vessels in that study as well. Correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong. And what I'd like to point out here is that aircraft and submarines are both asset classes that have a very high concentration of electronic components. Think about all the instrumentation, all the control systems, all the air monitoring equipment, and so on that are in those types of assets. Now, if we have a look at some of the results of these reports, in particular the United Airlines Nolan and Heap study, this table here is the top 20 prematurely removed components. And you'll notice that they're all electronic. So control for cabin pressure, audio units, coffee machines, you name it. It's all electronic. And so what this tells us is that the results set is heavily biased towards electronic components. Which makes sense, because if most of the components within the assets that we're studying are electronic, then most of the failures that we're going to see reported by that study are also going to be electronic. And what do we know about electronic failures? Well, most of them happen either in a random way or tend to have some form of infant mortality or early life failures. Now, if we keep following this train of thought and we go back to the profile of failure rates across the various studies, we'll notice a couple of key things. The first one is that the United Airlines and Broberg study both have a high proportion of failure pattern F, which is infant mortality or early life failures followed by a period of wear out. The MSDP and SubMep and SSMD, which are all military or US Navy studies, they seem to have a higher proportion of failure pattern E, which is random without infant mortality. And if you think about this, it makes sense in the context of electronic components because the military standards require burn-in, accelerated life testing, and additional redundancy over and above what you would typically see in the airline industry. Now, I'm not objecting to the study's results. If they found that proportion of failures in the different failure patterns, then I'm happy to accept that at face value. But understanding that they are asset classes that are dominated by electronic components and the results will reflect that means that we can think a little bit more critically about how we apply those results to the rest of industry. So bringing this back to the initial claim that most failures are random, I would say that this is valid for electronically dominated assets with high counts of electronic components, but it's not justifiable to apply that results from those studies to other industries like mining, oil and gas, electricity and water, utilities, without the subsequent studies in those areas. And because it makes sense to me that things like mining, for example, where there's a high concentration of rotating machinery, lots of wear type issues, that these results wouldn't make sense for that. So you still need to do your due diligence, you still need to justify your maintenance budgets and expenditure from a ground up and first principles point of view, and don't take these broad sweeping statements from that are out there on social media or being perpetrated by specific people that have taken these results out of context. Well, that's it for this video. If you liked the content of this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to the channel to get notified when new videos come out. And if you've got any ideas for further videos, please chuck them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to respond and create new content for you guys. Your time's very much appreciated, and see you next time.